This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, MICHAEL COVEL. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. My guest today is Tom Basso. This is Tom's. I have no earthly idea how many times Tom has appeared on this podcast. A lot. He is one of my favorite guests by you, the audience out there. Maybe the most favorite. Tom happens to have a new book out that you should check out called The All-Weather Trader, Mr. Serenity's Thoughts on Trading Come Rain or Shine. Our conversation today is all over the map, which of course is the way that I like it. And Tom is a good sport, and Tom plays along, and Tom goes with the flow. Without any further build-up from me, without any further delay, let's jump right into my conversation today with Tom Basso. I hope you enjoy. Let's jump right in, Tom. I was thinking before I got on this call, I don't think I can take responsibility for this. Maybe just a small percentage. Obviously, it's been something building in you. Can we officially stop talking about Tom being retired?
You and everybody else keeps telling me that. I have this dream that the book will come out. It will be well received and everything will be great. I'll do a few interviews here and there. I'm working on this trading platform. It's going to be named SimTrader, we think. It's well along. I'm almost totally automated on it now, alpha testing it. Those two projects have taken up a tremendous amount of my time. Some days it doesn't feel like I'm very retired. I have this hope that maybe in the coming year we get the house remodeled. I have a beautiful office in this new house. It puts everything I've had up to now to shame, and it's basically a sound studio. I'll have the automation with SimTrader. Maybe I can play a little more golf.
I'll make the argument. I don't think Tom wants to be retired. Maybe at some point in time, Tom thought he wanted to be retired, but not now. I'll share something with you that just happened on a conversation. I just had a chance to interview the founder of Atari, the video game manufacturer.
I saw that.
He's 80 years old. I said something to him about this idea of retiring. He's like, I'm not retiring. He goes, I've done the homework. He goes, the moment you retire, you die 7 years faster or 7 years earlier. I'm never retiring.
Well, here's the description that I would put forth, or the definition I would put forth. Retirement to me is being able to be free to do whatever you want to do. It doesn't mean you have to sit around and watch television all day. It could be golf. It could be working out. It could be helping a trader get started. It could be writing a Substack piece because I've got something on my mind and I want to get it off my chest. Those are all potential retirement things. I don't have to be there on Monday morning for a Zoom call with 20 traders because I'm charging them to train them, running some kind of a podcast that I need to do 2 per week, and I have advertisers depending on it. I'm selling product off of it or whatever. I mean, that is less than retirement to me. For me, today I did 3 contractor meetings at the new house. I did my work. In the morning, it was Spanish lessons and some emails. Then I put out this public relations thing this morning. We're 1 week out from launch. It had 42,000 views, 260 something likes, 8 retweets, and 1 quote was obtained from what I said, just from doing that one public relations piece for the book. Tomorrow is completely different, except for running my daily run. There's nothing tomorrow that looks remotely like what I did today, including I don't have an interview tomorrow, and I'm doing one right now.
I'm in the exact same process. I do try to do an interview every week or 2 a week and then not do one for a week or something like that. To me, it's kind of like being so far away from the States, which I enjoy. Jumping in and doing an interview is just fun. I get to choose who I want. And I can't tell you, Tom, how many times I'm pitched these days by people that their backgrounds look okay on paper. Maybe it's an interesting subject. I can't get the enthusiasm. I only choose the people that I think I'm going to enjoy. I can't do it just to do it for the sake of doing it. It's got to be something interesting to me.
People that fail in retirement typically take that image of retirement of, I don't have to work anymore. So I'm going to watch television. I'm going to drink every night of the week. I don't have to work out as much. They degrade their bodies and minds through lack of being able to do anything. I think when you have a career, I mean, when I was a money manager, from Sunday night, I was getting ready for Monday morning. It went all the way through Friday afternoon, and I was very disciplined and very on schedule and showed up at the same time every day and met my clients on the planes. And that was definitely an occupation. I did not have control over my schedule as much as I would have liked. And even despite the fact that I was making a lot of money and running this firm and had employees, there's a certain routine that you feel obligated to put forth. I don't anymore. I'm very busy. There's no doubt in anybody's mind that I'm busy. I'm everywhere lately. That's not going to be that way all the time. I'd like it to get down to just a little bit steadier pace. It's a little bit crazy right now.
So I just noticed that you worked with the company Scribe to do your new book.
Yeah.
Did you realize I'd interviewed the guy that started that company twice?
Oh, he's an interesting guy. I got to talk to him once. Very, very interesting. I could understand why you would enjoy that.
We're talking about Tucker Max you had a chance to speak with?
Exactly.
Tucker is probably right there in the same headspace that you and I have talked about many times. He's a self-sufficient kind of guy. When I met him for the first time, my gosh, I don't know how long ago, it was over a decade ago, was probably a little heavier and wasn't working out. And I was with another guy who was a lot heavier and wasn't working out. Tucker didn't even know us. And he just looked at us. He's like, what are you two guys doing? Go get in shape. What are you doing?
I can see him saying that.
It was great. I think it's an awesome option because I can think of all the pitfalls that I fell into learning how to write books and whatnot. I think they probably do a great job of bringing people in that don't want to learn the years and years of dealing with the publishing industry and helping them to just help a guy like you that knows what you want to say, get your book out there. I think it's a great service.
Correct. That's the thing is they basically did a little of suggestions and editing. Tom, this chapter could use an example here or something like that. But basically, I wrote the book. They are coming into play big time on the getting the Kindle version ready and getting Page ready for Amazon and combining together. I even have something strange because back in the old days, I used to go by Thomas F. Basso when I was working. But now everybody knows me as Tom Basso. What ends up happening is now they have to come up with 2 pages and combine them together so all my books will be in one place. All this bureaucratic nonsense. They get to do all that for me for a price. And I get to own the rights to the book. Based on the demand I'm seeing, it's going to be a big seller on the first day, I think. There's a lot of people anxious to read it.
I want to take you into some more current event stuff, and I want to pick your mind because you've got a lot of experience going back in time. I have to share something. I think this is on page 14 of the introduction. I about spit out a drink laughing from something in here because it kind of comes out of nowhere. You talk about the most of your listeners, followers are guys. And so you say that in your book, you're going to use the term he, and you're not being offensive. It's just you're using the term he. You say, assume it to be the person doing the trading is male, female, or any of the other genders that are out there these days. If I would have had something in my mouth, I would have spit it across the floor laughing. I was like, Tom is just sliding that in there. Wow.
Basically, I'm trying to keep the book extremely casual, like it's just Tom talking to you over a brew or whatever. Not anything stilted. I didn't want to have a book that was chapters and chapters on statistical analysis, asymptotic curves and non-normal curves and everything else. I just wanted to take a person that started out like I did back in the 70s, take them through my trading life a little bit and all the different reasons why I came to these epiphanies.
This is the American culture right now. This is a Tom Basso fight back against the culture line.
Well, it is. And I refused to go through the whole book. And every time I said he, say he or she, or he, she, them, or whatever else.
That's not the part I'm talking about of any of the other genders out there these days.
Well, there's a ton of them, I guess. Personally, I find it pretty easy. As Ben Carson said, go to the bathroom and look down. That's your gender. I mean,
we're off to a hell of a start today. Let me shift it into current events. I know for as many conversations as we've had, you've always been a guy that's talked about strains in the system you might see. The idea that uncertainty exists, chaos can happen, a black swan could swim in. You never make a prediction. You never say something is going to happen tomorrow. You have enough experience that you know that things are stretched, and they've been stretched for a long time, perhaps decades, some people could argue. Here we are now. We have a situation where you can tell me if you've ever felt these feelings before. We have a situation now where people really have to be worried, or it feels like they have to be worried, whether that's true or not, worried about their deposits in the bank. Will their deposits be there? What has been your feeling, your observations? We're not even getting into talking about how you would trade, but just your observations politically, culturally, society. What's been happening in the last few weeks as we talk here mid to late March of 2023?
I think several banks that have collapsed that have had capital, but they've invested that capital in things like a little bit more intermediate or longer term bonds that have a maturity curve and that have a duration risk, and then they don't manage that risk. That is insane. If I was on the board of directors of any of those places, I'd be screaming at them, what happens if interest rates go up 5%, which is what they've done? Your bonds are going to get killed. You're going to be out of capital. I'd just be screaming at people, or I'd refuse to be on the board if they didn't listen to me. These people have no risk management. They were paying attention to how woke they were. One of the guys was running seminars on whatever it was, critical race theory, I can't even remember, equality. And this is one of the bigger managers of the thing. Insane. You should be pounding. Apparently, they didn't have a risk manager for the last 9 months. You got to be kidding me.
Let me push back and ask you to take it to another level, perhaps. You point out no risk management. Maybe they did have risk management. Maybe we've reached a point in society where they just said to themselves, we're just going to play this game how we're playing it, and we're too big. We know we're too big. Our risk management is we'll be bailed out because we're too big. It almost seems like there was a certain arrogance there. And if this kind of arrogance, and I want you to expand on this, it seems like if I go back and look at the Chicago futures exchanges, regardless of the political stripe, it was always like, hey, it's a zero-sum game. We have to make sure everything's balanced out. You come into the game. If you lose, okay. If you win, okay. But it's a fair game. There was a certain amount of morality, you might say, even. But it seems like if this Silicon Valley Bank, for example, had no risk management and they played the game that they were playing, and clearly, let's assume that there were some high IQ people there, it really seems like they played the game knowing full well that their risk management was a bailout.
I don't know if they were that smart. I got to believe they've gone through semi-hell for the last weeks. Not sure they would want to bring that on themselves. I think their focus is just off. I mean, people in banks are not focusing on banking. They're focusing on all this other garbage. And to me, the problem with that is then the function of the bank fails. And even if they have the most altruistic goals to distract their institution into all sorts of different things, they don't get to do it anymore because the bank is no longer going to be there. In the end, they fail. It's like you yourself. If somebody is so helping everybody that they don't take care of themselves, there's not going to be any help to anybody eventually, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to disappear. And then these people will have nobody helping them. I think you got to do your core business. Just a lot of examples here. I mean, the banks that are getting off into crypto land and lending money, and cryptos are some of the most volatile instruments in my 60 instruments that I own probably today. If I look at my average true range of cryptos, gosh, 2,000 points on Bitcoin a day or some ridiculous number. Despite that, we want to loan money to people who want to trade in those markets. Does that make any sense? You're adding tremendous volatility and then you're adding more danger. How are you going to manage that? I don't get it.
If I look at Silicon Valley Bank, they get this duration thing wrong. Okay, they make a mistake. And then the argument from all their depositors is, well, hey, it's not our fault that our bank made these decisions to buy these bonds at the wrong time, yada, yada. How can a system work? And these are bailouts. How can a system work? I saw Yellen came out and said recently, I think it was the senator from Oklahoma who asked her point blank, if our regional Oklahoma banks go under, will they get the same treatment as Silicon Valley Bank? Janet Yellen told the senator from Oklahoma, well, only if they're, quote, systemic risk. I thought to myself, wow, that's the most subjective political stuff. Because essentially your life, my life, what we're talking about the markets, this is about math. This is about math. And you were talking about that with why did they not hedge their positions? This is about math. And the moment that math becomes personal and political and subjective and there's no objectivity, where are we left, Tom?
We're left in a quagmire. That's why I'm a bit pessimistic going forward for things like the economy, things like personal freedoms and rights. They're getting trampled on left and right the last 3 years, ever since COVID. It's been just a tremendous decline of personal freedoms. I mean, I can even understand why you head offshore, have the freedoms that you enjoy, because you probably do enjoy some. And I get nervous every day when I see what's happening, and I try to think of how do I plan my future. And it's very difficult when things are eroding like this. I mean, for starters, do you even know whether you're going to be able to buy food 6 months from now? It's that bad. So you start thinking, well, maybe I ought to put away a couple of cans of beans or rice or something in the pantry just in case, because you're going to want to have something to eat. You're going to get hungry. About water? How about infrastructure failing? How about crime? It seems like the big cities are just ignoring crime, turning the criminals right back on the streets. In Arizona here, you got the southern border is completely non-existent almost. The population of illegals throughout the state is just unbelievable. And that puts a burden on the fiscal status of the state of Arizona and New Mexico and Texas. And even some of the other states are getting thousands and thousands of illegals that are putting burden on their social systems and health systems, hospitals and schools. How long can you do that before the system collapses?
In the last few weeks, did you have any feeling that, okay, I need to be worried about my deposits in some of my banks? Did that feeling cross your mind?
No, it didn't. In my case, I'm dealing with two different banks. One is the 10th largest bank in the United States. The other one doesn't really have any kind of an investment program. It's very much a pass-through bank that is an accommodation for the brokerage firm that it's associated with. And I really don't keep a lot of money in banks. I have all my money in various trading accounts. In the trading accounts, I might have some T-bills or something just to deal with idle cash. But pretty much, as you could tell when you read the book, I've gotten so far flung with having futures programs overlaying on top of equity programs that I'm pretty utilizing most of my capital in multiple ways sometimes, and frequently I'm on margin. But I'm doing that for diversification and risk reduction. So it's a kind of an aggressive way of being conservative.
Let me rephrase it in the sense you have a lot of people that come to know about you, come to follow you. Maybe they're beginners. They could be beginners at age 20. They could be beginners at age 60, or their experience level could be all over the map. And they don't yet have that type of sophistication that you just laid out. What about for those types of folks in the last 2 weeks? Would you have some sense if I was in their position, I would be a little alarmed as to what's been happening?
It really depends on how much loss you can take gracefully, say, in life. If you were to have, say, 50,000 and it was all the money that you had saved in your entire life, I'd be very nervous keeping it at just a single bank or any institution, really. If you could break that apart into, say, two or three so that any one of those going down wouldn't cause you to miss a stride, yeah, it'd be a bad day and you would not be very happy and you'd like to get your money back. You could keep on going. You could keep running your life. You could keep buying groceries, making your payments. Then I'd be a little more comfortable. I think you got to dial it in for each situation differently.
Before we move on, I want to take it back to something you brought up. And I want to see if I can keep this topic moving in a way that it's going to be hard. Some people will want to put us in a slot no matter what. I don't think what I'm going to bring up, though, is really about partisanship. You brought up crime. I was back in America half of December, half of January. I walked into a CVS with a friend. We came back out. There were 6 cop cars in the parking lot. We found out a day later there had been a shooting in the 10 minutes we had been inside. 10 minutes earlier, we could have been in the middle of crossfire, a hometown that I grew up in. I traveled while I was back in the States. I traveled around the Capitol Beltway several times across Virginia, Maryland. Multiple times on this highway, I'm going 70, people coming up behind me at 100 miles an hour at least, getting right up to my bumper and swerving around me. This happens so much, and I'd not been in the area. I felt like this must be a game. And then just the overall feeling around a lot of young people and whatnot. I don't understand the crime thing. I guess, having been in Asia now for 10 years, I've never seen any violence. I'm starting to lose touch with why it's even tolerated. Why it seems like that if you and I would have been a teenager when we were growing up in America, if we would have pounded on a cop car or we would have talked back or whatever, we were going to have the cuffs put on us and we were being taken down. If we were stealing something or messing up a drugstore or a supermarket or a 7-Eleven, it seems like something's happened. You're going to give me a very pragmatic answer about it. I don't understand what's happening.
I think it's a lack of parenting, the tremendous amount of broken marriages. I mean, more than 50% of marriages fail in the United States, I think is the latest statistic I saw. I think that combined, so you got multiple parent situations that are very messed up. They don't have a father figure maybe, or they don't have a mother figure. The schools, when you and I were growing up, if you screwed up, you got a ruler on your hands or you got a little table tennis paddle to your butt back in the really old days. You definitely got a call to your parents and they came and picked you up and then they gave it to you again. Kind of learned your lessons that I guess that's antisocial behavior or I shouldn't be doing that or whatever. Nowadays, you can do whatever you want and they laugh at the teachers trying to suggest anything otherwise. That starts the process when they're young. And then you get to teenage years, the crimes start and the DAs in these big cities don't even want to prosecute. These people just keep saying, oh, well, I can do that and get away with it. I can do it again and get away with it again. And it just degrades little by little. The people that are being let go, and you know that Johnny over here did something stupid and he shouldn't have done it. He didn't get in any trouble for it. I can try that too, and I won't get in any trouble either. It just spreads like wildfire. It's just the way it is. That's a degradation of society as we know it. Not a good thing, I don't think.
And I guess ultimately that brings me to a word that you like, a word that I like, and it's a word that I don't know if a lot of people really think about it, which is risk. The issues that I just brought up, I would always think, as you described, I would be thinking to myself, well, how do I fit into that situation? If I'm in the middle of that situation, what am I exposed to? What are my risks? Do I have risks? For example, if I'm in the United States of America, do I have risks if I decide to go buy a candy bar from 7-Eleven at 9 o'clock at night? Do I have risks if I go to a Walmart at 3 p.m. on a Sunday? We never really had to think that way, but that's in a lot of ways for a mind like yourself, the way that you've grown up in thinking about the markets. I'm sure you're now looking at life and saying this same type of thinking about life and applying your risk thinking everywhere.
Sure. Do I go to the Walmart in Scottsdale in a busy area of a busy city with who knows how many thousands of people in the place at 3 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon versus go to the Walmart in Payson, Arizona in the mountains right near my mountain home, which has 15,000 people in it. And on a Sunday afternoon, it'll be a few people in there, but it'll be half empty. You'll be able to find a parking space for sure. Very different risk structure. Yeah, you do start thinking about that. I've mentioned to my wife multiple times that if the SHTF, it's an acronym that many people will know what that means. I'll refrain from saying it. You can swear.
I don't have a problem with swearing, Tom. You're a nice guy. I've never heard you swear. I grew up playing too much baseball.
SHTF, I'd rather be in the mountain home than I'd be in Scottsdale, even because Scottsdale is in a city of between Scottsdale and Phoenix. They're side by side, Mesa, Tempe. It's all one big metropolitan area. You're talking 4-5 million people in the metropolitan region. And there's a lot of stuff going on that, especially you get to like South Phoenix or something, those cops down there get a full shift.
It's an interesting comparison if I think about it. Like, okay, going to a very busy inner city Walmart, for example, or just big city Walmart, and the crowds that might be there versus the mountain retreat Walmart, I can almost think that folks that want to say they're trading 5-minute bars, the people that say they're trading 5-minute bars, I never believe them. They just tell me these things, but they say they're trading 5-minute bars. I think they're at the really busy Walmart that's chaotic. It seems like that if you're trading this crazy thinking, your risk understanding will have you at the crazy Walmart. If you have a sound, practical approach, you're probably going to be over here at the mountain Walmart.
Sure. That might be. Yeah. You're kind of in the noise versus the information, maybe. There's risks with a lot of different things these days that I do end up having to think about. Well, another one, for instance, the new house we just bought and we're starting to remodel. That's going to be quite the project for about 8 or 12 months. We've just started 3 weeks ago. I'm at the early stages of it. You look at where that is located, it's in a man-gated community. And a lot of people don't like those for various reasons, and some people would insist on them. The reason we wanted to have it is we have 2 houses. We're not in any one location all the time. It's kind of nice to have somebody looking over the place that you could call and say, could you run by? I'm getting an alarm on this. Could you just swing the security vehicle by and look in the windows and see if there's something going on? If you have somebody that you can call to do that, that's great. I guess you could rely on neighbors to a certain extent if you could find a neighbor that was close by. But you're getting a little bit of matching your lifestyle and an abatement of risk to your situation where you know there is a risk. You kind of make decisions.
Let me see if I can, as we're in this wandering topic, not wandering topic, but I can take you anywhere, but you've got some great perspectives. Imagine you're talking to yourself today. You are 25-year-old Tom in 2023. How much different is the world that you would be facing today as a 25-year-old Tom in 2023 versus as an established, successful Tom at your age now in, quote, retirement in 2023?
Quote, retirement. You and Lawrence Bensdorp are always getting after me for that. The 23-year-old Tom would sort of have his life planned out, have a tremendous amount of energy, be doing 5 things at the same time all the time. I would be much more caffeinated than I am now. I would be very impatient with the grandfather that I am now.
When you, Tom, started back in the day and comparing that playing field that when you started to a Tom, if he had to start today, do you see the playing field differently?
You're talking the money management business?
Trading, living, yes, all aspects.
Well, yeah, trading and living back then was quite a bit more straightforward. You kind of knew what you had to do. It was very inexpensive to start up a commodity trading advisor business. You basically had to show that you knew what you were doing, and people would start giving you money, and pretty soon you're managing enough to pay a decent salary, and you're hiring other people, and you're putting together a firm, and it's just one thing led to the other. Nowadays, you'd have to have maybe a minimum of 5 people with different disciplines. You have to have backups, you have multiple locations, perhaps, an office. You'd have to have 20, 30 times the amount of money under management for anybody to take you seriously. I mean, I got my first big account when I had 6 million under management, and somebody gave me 4 and got me to 10. And once I hit 10, it was real easy to get to 20. And when it was 20, it was easier to get to 40. All of a sudden I blink and I'm over 100. Today, nobody would look at you until you get to 100. So how are you going to get to 100 if nobody's going to look at you? It's insane what you have to go through in today's business. Very convoluted. And yet at the same time, back in the day, there was con jobs. There was people that would steal and fraud investors. And guess what? Today, there's people who will steal and fraud investors. We've added scores and scores of laws and regulatory agencies and burdens on the honest operator in the business. And at the same time, people are still getting scammed. I had a childhood friend milked out of $280,000 on a Facebook crypto scam, thinking he was talking to me.
My brain paused for a second. Restate that. I want to make sure what you just said.
Childhood friend was frauded out of $280,000 in a crypto scam by a guy portraying himself as me on Facebook.
No recovery?
Nope.
That's tough. And you know what? I'll say it. You don't have to say it with me. I got censored by Facebook for linking to a CDC report in February of 2022. Nothing controversial. It was on the CDC website. They suspended me. And at that moment, I said, okay, that's it. I'm not playing on Zuckerberg's game anymore. Basically now, over the last year, I'll post my podcast episodes on Facebook, but I really don't participate anymore. And the example that you just give, the fact that there's no recourse, the fact that you, Tom, have had no recourse for all these years to establish yourself as a known person, that Facebook just sits there with all this freaking money, doesn't allow any support. You can't ask a question. You can't complain. You can't do anything. And then people are getting screwed over is just infuriating. I'm glad I stopped.
If you'd like me to rant a bit more, think about this little gem. Facebook has a lot of technology in all this artificial intelligence, and they're doing all these meta universe and 3D simulations and all that. My photo is on my enjoytheride.world Facebook corporate account. Pretty picture of me. I was in a tux because I was celebrating because I got the book done. So we went out to dinner that night. I had my tux on. We had a photographer take pictures. That was the same photo that the imposter used. Now, you and I both know that you can get photo recognition software, and I'm certain that Facebook could do this. Look and see that somebody was just opening up a new account with the same photo that's already been used on another account. Now, when I report this scam guy, and I'll report him, and I'll say he's impersonating me, and here's my account, and I'll shut the guy down. So if I catch him before he scams somebody, I can shut him down. What do? They ask me for proof that I'm really Tom Basso to verify that I have the right to get this scam account down. They ask me for ID. Now, why don't we do that before the scam account is opened? Wait, we got the same photo. You're trying to open a new account. Prove that you're Tom Basso. Send a copy of your driver's license or something. No, they don't want to do that. They let the guy scam people and get a lot of engagement and who knows, maybe even sell ads.
You disagreed with me on Silicon Valley Bank in the sense I made the case that perhaps their risk management was just to get bailed out. And I would take it a step further. I say to myself, well, a lot of these were the VCs, the Silicon Valley VCs, the crypto VCs. I don't know. Maybe they wanted Silicon Valley Bank to go under so they could tell people, oh, now you've got a use case for Bitcoin. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. I guess I look at the Facebook situation and I say, they do it on purpose. I'll share with you. I think it was 5 years ago for the first time. 5 years ago, I took my phone and I heard there was a website. I wasn't sure, and I don't even know what the name of it is today. I'm sure it still exists, but I took a selfie of myself. I went to some random website, didn't have to log in. I uploaded the selfie of myself and it told me who I was. That was 5 years ago. Yeah, the fact that they do that to you and your friend, why should I not have the conclusion that it's not done on purpose?
It may be. I mean, there may be some compelling business reason why you have more accounts. I mean, when Twitter was purchased, there was this big controversy over the robots and how many of Twitter's actual users that were reported are actually real people. There was some thought that a good 15, 20% or more of the people or the posts and everything else on Twitter are really being done by computers. They're not real people at all. Therein gives you bigger numbers for charging for ads. Twitter's losing money and they're trying to make a living. They have a negative impact on their earnings if they were to be able to get rid of every non-account, non-real person account. Motivations maybe lie on keeping as many accounts on the books as possible, even if they're completely fabricated.
This is a great moment to pivot to the price. In this world of chaos, this world of potential crime, this world of sordid risks, finding something that you can believe in that appears to be true. For example, like a futures price traded at the CME. So far, so good. Those appear to be true. It's terribly sad that your childhood friend that happened. If other people can hear the story, they can say to themselves, I never want to be in that position. If I'm going to take wisdom from Tom, then I'm going to take wisdom from Tom by reading his book or listening to him on a podcast. Or if Tom had an affiliation with a registered serious company like Standpoint, then I might make an investment. Getting people to realize that all the fluff isn't the real. So what is real? The real is the price. If Tom is telling you to make an investment in something, don't trust Tom. Trust the price. You can go verify Tom, but it's like, I think getting people in this mindset of investigating and verifying, terribly important.
I get a lot of direct messages and emails asking advice. If you really analyze the way I answer a lot of those, I'm really trying to offer possibilities that they should consider. But I don't think I ever say you need to do this, especially if it's involving with me selling something.
I've never heard you say anything like that.
My big thing is everybody should develop what works for them. Say trend following. I mean, you're the master at trend following. That's your big book that can be used as a doorstop if the wind's blowing in hurricane.
It's a weapon, Tom. It's a weapon.
It's a weapon. It's that large. Well worth it. It's a great book. The point I make is that you could take trend following, the concept mathematically of trend following, and you could apply it if you wanted to 5-minute bars, or you could do it to monthly charts, or you could do it to weekly charts, daily charts, 4-hour charts. You can trade futures with it, stocks with it, bonds with it if you wanted, gold with it, whatever you want, cryptocurrencies. I think that's where it gets customized by the individual. If you've got a guy that's on the road, how can he be watching 2-hour charts if he's on an airplane? He can't. He has to custom design a trend following approach, let's say, that makes sense for his lifestyle, his situation, his knowledge levels, skills levels, the whole thing, the whole gamut of who he is. His financial puzzle that he's trying to solve is different than Tom Basso's financial puzzle, which I've worked hard to solve. We're going to come to different answers because the puzzles are different.
Would it be fair for someone like me to hear you say that and to give a wide perspective on how something like trend following could be interpreted? One of my thoughts might be, well, why is this smart guy Tom not doing 5-minute bars? Why was that smart guy Bill Dunn not doing 5-minute bars? And John Henry and AHL the Dutch guy at TransTrend, and Larry Height and Ed Sakota. Why were all these guys not doing 5-minute bars? Now, Tom's being very nice and he's saying, hold on, you've got to do your own way. But I'd be saying, hold on, why is Tom not doing 5-minute bars?
Yeah, but let's give you another example besides the multi-billion-dollar collectively managers that you all described there, and go to somebody new in the industry that's just starting out. Retired doctor, he's got a lot of time. He's got plenty of money, but he's peeled off $50,000 for his trading account. And he really does want to dig in and be in front of his screen all day. You and I don't want to be, but he might be. If he wants to do that, and if he wants to use trend following techniques, I see nothing wrong with trying to do that, because he's not going to have the liquidity problems and the scrutiny by the clients of lots of transactions and all those legal issues and audit issues and reporting issues that go along with that for all of us that you mentioned that we're professionals in the industry.
But you guys didn't start as professionals. You started as average guys too.
Right. When I started, I didn't have enough time to do 5-minute bars. I was being a chemical engineer during the day and doing this at night.
Let me see if I can push you on this, though, in the sense that I get your point. I've said this on my podcast too. I said, look, if you want to be Jim Simons, you can try to be Jim Simons and trade at the speed of light. You can try to go there. There's a lot of issues that you have to manage at that level and that speed. Whereas trend following with daily bars or weekly bars, an entirely different ballgame. I would say to the audience also too, that it's always been interesting to me, whether they were starting off with 5 million or worked their way up to 1 billion or whatever under management. It's always been interesting to look at the track records. And I guess I've just never seen these large numbers of trend following track records at the 5-minute bars. They might exist, but I've never seen them.
I have a different track record curve. When I've done studies where I've taken it intraday and used similar models and looked at different time periods, it tends to run your reliability up slightly. Over my lifetime, I'm probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 33% reliable, and my profit to loss factor is probably 3 to 1 or somewhere in that ballpark, 3.5 to 1, I'd guess. As I've run studies, as you go down, of course, your number of trades goes sky high quick. The second thing that happens is your reliability starts going from 33 and starts gravitating up towards 40. And we're just doing the same thing, just changing the time. The other thing that happens is the profit factor goes from about 3.5 down to about 2.5. And so you're doing lots of trades. You're eking out a profit over lots and lots and lots of trades. So you're basically becoming the casino with the 1,000 slot machines on the floor, and you're picking up tiny bits, but you're having to do a whole lot of machines and a whole lot of trades to get there. So that's the way that shifts when I look at it mathematically and try to simulate it.
I want to shift you into the idea of big events, because possibly we're living through one of those big events right now.
You mean the launch of my book?
Yeah, that's a big event for sure. As we leave the topic of trying to trade at those smaller time frames, I think it's fair to say that going back all those years, I can't remember if you were called Mr. Serenity before Jack wrote that chapter or after, or he named you. I seriously doubt that I would be having a conversation with a trader today in 2023 who's been in the markets for 50 years, who has the nickname Mr. Serenity. I don't think that name would exist if he was trading 5-minute bars for 50 years. In fact, I would bet every penny of my life on it.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have had time to do the interview with Jack if I was doing 5-minute bars, because I wouldn't have had even the hour and a half it took to interview me.
I don't think Serene, I think it might have been Mr. High Octane or something different. Let me shift you into something, though, where here we are now. And I think one of the most interesting things, whether we're calling it trend following or an all-weather mindset, I think one of the most interesting things is that this type of thinking and strategy, that when the world goes to the figuratively hell in a handbasket and chaos unfolds, a black swan swims in, this style of thinking and trading that you've been involved in so long seems to do very well. Look, I'm not making a prediction. I can't say always. Just seems to be the historical track record when things happen. Long-term capital management, the dot-com crisis, fall of 2008, 2022. Why is this? You're going to talk to someone and you're going to start to explain to them why your mindset, why your trading strategy can seemingly do well when the rest of the world has trouble. Why is that? How do you break that apart to start to explain to people?
The reason is, I hate using gambling analogies, could be the thought of doing a lot of trades, a bunch of slot machines, and you got some kind of progressive slot machine of some sort that has the potential huge payday. Your job as a slot machine player is to lose a little on this one and make a little on that one, and you have a small payout and it pays for a couple more turns, and you go along. And let's ignore for the fact that the casino is always taking their 8% or whatever it is off the total play. What happens in the world is you have these black swan events, and that's just simply financial or commoditized disruption to some market someplace where you have a plague on a crop, you have a drought, you have a frost on the orange juice crop, you have a war in the Middle East, so oil goes crazy. Any one of these events creates price movement because you've dislodged the normal supply and demand of that market. One side is definitely out of whack with the other. Prices have to compensate to bring trade back together. Well, a trend follower, by its very nature, the math behind trend following says, I'm going to ignore noise, but when it gets to this point, it's no longer noise. It's now moving up or it's moving down, either way. And the trend follower, if he or she is disciplined, says, I don't care what it's going to do. I just know that it's doing something today. I'm jumping on the train. Hopefully it continues to go. And a lot of times it doesn't. I mean, 2 out of 3 trades, I lose money. A lot of times it doesn't go anywhere. And even in the 1/3 that goes my way, a lot of those are kind of duds, make 2 times my risk or something. I'm not going to retire off of that. But every now and again, recently with the orange juice trade that we were in on, good grief, it just goes every day like it's jokingly put on Twitter, like a F-22 going after a Chinese spy balloon. Straight up, afterburners are on, and that's the way the prices look on the chart. That's why one of those large trades, all you need is maybe 1 or 2 a year, and you've had a great year. The rest of the trades can just break even. You make a little, you lose a couple times, small amounts, you make another little, you lose a couple times, and all of a sudden there's that one trade, and you just hang on for dear life and enjoy the ride.
We've talked about it on many podcasts episodes, and I implore people to go back and listen to all of your episodes. It's a great training class. I never get sick of finding what you just said interesting, meaning the way that trend following works. It's novel, it's creative. There's not really ego there. You don't care where the money came from. It's just a fascinating approach. It never ceases to amaze me as to how cool it is.
And I'll tell you, the hard part for most investors, especially if you're starting to do it very long term, like you're doing weekly charts or you're doing monthly charts or even daily in some cases, in an orange juice situation, for instance, where it just goes and goes and goes and goes. And then when it turns around, it starts limiting down every day. And you're looking at your equity, and it's like that famous silver trade that Jack wrote about with me back in whenever it was, 1985 or whatever it was. I was on silver. I did the right thing, but I had to hang on for dear life, and it just scared the living daylights out of me. I went from $500,000 all the way back to $250,000, still ended up doubling my account size, which was really good, but lost half of my account from the equity peak. That is very rough mentally to deal with. I think a lot of people abandon trend following because of the mental aspects of what can happen during a drawdown, or at least even on a given trade, giving up some of those profits and realizing that's part of the math. Part of what you're supposed to be doing is giving up those profits because the market needs room to move. If you put your stops too close, you're going to get stopped out, and you're not going to really be trend following very much. You're not going to get that big winner because you'll be stopped out quickly.
Funny thing is, though, too, is that people, they haven't had to feel it for a long time. People can give up 50% of their buy and hold approach as well. Maybe, who knows? Maybe we might be in the middle of one of those periods right now. I have to say, Tom, I talk to a lot of people. I see a lot of books. You've been very important to this podcast. So I really want to implore people, because it's not about the economics. Tom's going to be fine. Tom puts the time in. He has created a new product, his new book, The All-Weather Trader. Look, for the cost of education, the cost is pretty small. You got a guy who's been around for 50 years giving you, look, I'm just going through the table of contents. I mean, it's all the things you have to be thinking about if you're going to come into this world. What's a complete trading strategy? Timing, hedging, diversification, all the pieces that you should know about. And maybe you've heard about them in some other place or whatnot. But hey, you know Tom, you hear Tom. It's always great to either learn something new or be reinforced. There's not a lot of people out there these days that are creating what I would call just an honest take. There's a lot of people out there selling the latest candlesticks book or the latest 5-minute bar book. This is not you. The All-Weather Trader, pick it up. Subtitle, Mr. Serenity's Thoughts on Trading Come Rain or Shine. Umbrella. I mean, I can't imagine the last time you used an umbrella in Arizona. When's the last time you held an umbrella in your hand?
Actually, Sunday. It was raining when I was heading up to sing in the church choir. So I ended up having to get something over my head or I would have been drenched by the time I walked in. We're supposed to have rain tonight. We've had more rain than we usually do in a couple months than we usually do in a year. It's been living in some other tropical climate here in Scottsdale. It's been very strange. The desert super bloom this year is unbelievable. Beautiful.
Well, Tom, it's always cool to talk to you. We've spoke so much for the podcast over the years. Sometimes it can feel like to me, and I'm sure the same for you, it might sometimes feel like, did we just talk? No, it's been over a year. How does that happen? It's strange.
Well, we're both busy guys. I'm retired.
Oh, yeah. This should be your new joke. Your business card should just say, Tom Basso, I'm retired. That should be your business card.
My business card says, Tom Basso, unemployable.
I'd have a similar problem. Maybe that's why I'm not even in the States anymore. They won't let me return.
I'm not even sure at most companies you could put me on a board of directors. I wouldn't be a thorn in their side. I'm pretty much unemployable, but I find a lot of things to keep myself amused.
But that's a great place to end it, though. And I think it's a goal that people should be thinking about, because if you have a trader who's been in the markets for 50 years, done quite well, and he says he's unemployable, he's laughing when he says it, but he's dead serious, actually. And he's saying it as a badge of honor. He's saying it as, this is the way that I want to live. I'm reading your mind. This is the way that I enjoy to live. Put aside the trading stuff for a second. It would really be incumbent on those listening to really understand why Tom is saying he's unemployable and why he's proud of it, why he likes it, and why you might want to consider that style of a life yourself. I'm just adding some feedback there from my perspective.
No, that's true. I mean, people that work for a big corporation, there's going to be procedures, there's going to be legal benefits provided, there's going to be a safety net, if you will, for your family, maybe the health plan and all that. In my case, I'd rather control all that for myself, and I'd rather not be beholding. If I want to work really hard on a Sunday evening at 5:00 at night, so be it. If I want to take Monday morning off to go fishing or something, so be it. I get to make those choices, and it's really hard. If anybody were to employ me, they would want to be expecting certain things out of me. It's just not me. I try to find the challenge and the goal, and I want to get this book written, and I got it written, and I'm going to get it out the door, and March 28th, away it goes. I'm in a sort of unique position, I guess, in that I'm chairman of Standpoint, but that doesn't mean I go in there every day and manage the investments like Eric has to. I show up for quarterly board meetings and have an enjoyable time having lunch with the guys. Yeah, I give them a few pieces of advice here and there, but that's the closest thing I have to a job. It's really more of an honorary title or position. Everything I do with the website is completely done whenever I feel like it. When I schedule interviews with guys like you, it's whenever I feel like it. If I don't want to do an interview with you, I don't. But fortunately for you,
you keep coming back, so I don't know. I must be okay.
Michael, you and I always have a good time. I enjoy your interviews. I've listened to a bunch of other interviews besides Tom Basso's interviews. I love when you talk to Larry and some of the other people.
The book, The All-Weather Trader, Mr. Serenity's Thoughts on Trading Come Rain or Shine. I will say, though, you just made a point. I'm not going to let you elaborate because I want to end it on it. You talked about the safety net that might exist working for the corporations and stuff. I'm going to tell the audience something really quick. Let me give you a hint, audience. I don't think Tom really believes there's a safety net working for the big corporation. He might say that, but I really don't think he believes that. Again, everybody, go grab the book, The All-Weather Trader. Tom, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Good to see you.
I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.